Alright, welcome to part 2 of how to rebind a Bible. I actually thought I didn't record this video, but I did. And so here's part 2. Hopefully this helps you out. I'm hoping with these videos to pass down, my knowledge. I don't know how much longer I'll be doing this. I expect ministry is going to get busy for me, so I wanted to start putting out these videos to pass down my knowledge to somebody else. So here, we already in the previous video did the exterior. Now we're doing the liner. And I showed the measurements. And so right now, I'm finding center, and then I'm marking out where the center is going to go on this liner. And I didn't record cutting out the liner. I felt that was kind of simple and obvious, not something that needs to be shown. You get your measurements for where the liner is going to go and you cut it out. So here I'm finding where the edge line tab is going to be, where it connects to the Bible. Here's my center. And I'm not going to edit out. The last video I edited, but this one I'm going to try not to edit and cut out. Kind of show the full process of what I'm doing here. You can see sometimes, there's not a pen. I've never found a pen that does not get clogged up. Even if I get a leather marking pen, it just does not work well. With all the leather fibers on the interior of leather, it just gets clogged up sometimes. But I found that I use the Pilot pens. They work well. And then I do use a leather marking pen, which is like a white ink. And then maybe I could find the link to it. I don't know, but I bought like 300 of just like the cartridges that go into it. And I bought it a couple years ago, and it's lasted me a long time. So here I'm marking out my yap length. And there's where, the Bible's going to tab into. There's my liner. Mark a straight line there. And then next I'll mark out, here I'm showing right, there's the yap, and then that'll be the length of the Bible itself. And then here I'm marking the yap on the side, and then I'm going to find center. And then that is going to be where the interior stamping is on the liner, where I put goatskin leather and frost binding. So now I have my number 2 3/8 of where I'm going to stamp on the other side of that liner. So next we're going to do the spine hubs. And there's 3 different ways you could do spine hubs, but here we're doing tooled hubs. And here's the material that I use. It's kind of like a synthetic leather, they call it, Craftex. I used to use cardstock, but it used to crease. And so I just recently, about a month or so ago, switched to this material for the spine hubs because it's incredibly flexible. It breaks in, it doesn't crease. You could wash this stuff and dry it out and reuse it and sew with it. And it's just kind of an incredible material, actually. It's kind of expensive, but it's worth it. It makes the spine sturdy. So here I'm marking out, I had my measurements for what the spine length and width is, so I'm just marking that out here. And I'm also going to be showing some very valuable ways of doing spine hubs, how I do my signature pressed hubs. I was kind of at first reluctant to show people how to do these hubs, just because I was the only one doing it, and it kind of just set me apart. There's so many great binderies out there. You got PTL, you got Cherry Hill, you got Logos up and coming, just doing great work, and you got AE Bibles, and you got so many great binderies out. And so I was kind of reluctant because it was just kind of the one thing that I had. So here we go. We got the exterior cover. We got our material cut out for the spine hubs area. And here I'm just applying some glue with my brush that I've used for probably 6 months now. You know, if you do the bag, get a Ziploc bag and wrap it with a rubber band, and every other day I'll wash them in hot water, and you can make a $2 brush last 6 months to a year, you know. And so there you go. There's the material. See, I'm getting that brush all airtight, even with the glue on it, because I'm going to use it, you know, multiple times. And then I use for my glue, maybe I should show that in a video, you know, a little mason jar to keep it airtight. Get my roller, roll it out, and then I'm going to grab my tooler. Again, I bought this I bought that tool probably 7 years ago, and I used it every day. I use it every day. It has lasted a long time, but here I'm just tooling out where that material is. And grab my ruler and just mark it out, just so it's straight, and I don't have to worry about finding where the line is. And then next we will press the hubs. But here I'm going to now use my ruler again, and I'm going to mark out the hubs. So here, this ruler is exactly 1 inch. And usually I grab my other ruler, which is 1.5 inches. See, it's 1 inch. And I'll mark out the rest of the hubs at 1.5 inch lengths. But since this Bible was a Pocket New Testament, I had to just take a measurement because I like to fit 5 hubs on the spine. 4 hubs look funny. 6 hubs look funny. You know, 5 hubs just looks perfect. So here I'm just marking out. I made my straight line on the top, and I just follow the rest of my straight lines, and there we go. I got my tooled marks for my hubs. So next we're gonna press our hubs. Right, and there's raised hubs you could do, and I'll show that in a different video. And then there's tooled hubs where you just put 2 tooled lines. Maybe I'll show that in another video. I don't do those style anymore. I just do these only. And then here, I'm changing out the tip on my solder. That's what I use. I use a solder to press these hubs in. So if you get a kit, usually it'll have that kind of wide bit in there. If it doesn't, just get this exact one. You could pause the video and find that one online. It's fairly inexpensive. Turn it on, and I keep the degrees I learned between 250 and 265, depending on what I'm doing. But for spine hubs, around 255 is perfect. It won't burn the leather. Just you can't hold it there for a long time. You press it, you make an indent, and you'll have your pressed hubs. Here we go. I use a ruler, and I press them in. Simple as that. Now if you do this and it makes the leather matte, what it did is it burned off the finisher on the leather. And so all you'd have to do, and again, you know, I'd have to show this in a later video, is you buy acrylic finisher solution for leather, and you just take a small brush and you just brush it inside of those hubs, and it'll restore that finish and give it a glossy look. But with Sokoto, you don't need to do that. It actually just kind of smooths it out and makes it have a really shiny, good looking finish. So there we go. Just took me, I don't know what, 30 seconds to make those hubs, and we are done. We are on to the next step. So we got our liner embossed. I'll have to show that in a different video also, just because I got to figure out my point of view for you guys and how to watch me, and it's not complicated, but it is going to be more of an in-depth video on how to show embossing. And also this this cover just has New Testament stamped on the front cover, and whenever I stamp the front cover, I'll do that after the cover's finished, because then I'll know exactly where center is, and so I always just do that after. It's just been kind of my habit. And then also when I install the liner, the cover's just more substantial, easier to work with, and I'm able to easier hold it on the embossing machine for a front cover stamping. So I skipped that part for now, but here you see I'm gluing the liner, and I'm gluing the exterior on the inside, and I'm applying a lot of glue on the interior, and I do one side at a time. And so first I'm doing that. I do the back side first, and I always do my systems the same. If you want to get quick at rebinding, just do the same exact thing over and over. There I was making sure that I did do the back first, and then I'll fold the liner, and then I'll just install it right in those lines and just get it perfectly on there. And if you follow those lines, you'll just hit perfection every time. There we go. I'm just kind of working it because the liner's kind of soft. And if you noticed, I don't use a third material in between the exterior leather and the liner. Other binderies do, and it turns out a great product, and it just makes a really solid cover. It's just something I never did. I never learned to do. I never went that direction. I always liked just a simple leather only on both sides. So here I'm using my roller, my Cricut ruler again, and get one of those because those are valuable. I mean, I use it all the time for so many areas. And get my tooling again, and after I get the liner installed and I roll it, I get my tooling tool again, and I tool out where that hub is and where my tab is, and then I roll it again, get it smooth, just to make sure that the glue is pressed right there. And then I wipe off any, I got like a damp paper towel ready, and I just kind of wipe off any excess glue because I don't want to make a mess all over my bench and over the other material when I fold it like that. So now I'm going to do the other side. I need some glue. There's the glue I use, the pH adhesive. It's PVA glue. And you want to use that glue because it when it binds, it doesn't harden. Say like if you got what's that glue called? Even if you got Elmer's glue, it'll harden, and then if you try to flex it, it'll crack. But PVA glue, when it dries, it's incredibly flexible, and it's made for binding, book binding. So that's what you want to use. I even use that glue whenever I reinforce the spine. And even though the spine's reinforced, it still has a very flexible, it keeps the spine flexible, doesn't stiffen it up, which I don't like. I don't like a stiff spine or a stiff cover in a sense, because it kind of ruins the experience for me. But I do want it to be substantial and to be able to last. So here I glued the other side, and now I'm going to glue the top and bottom of the hubs. A little bit too much glue on my brush. The smaller brush that I usually use for this work I just cleaned it, and so I had to use my big brush. So there we go. Got lots of glue. Now we're gonna fold it over and place where it goes. In the same system, line it up with the lines. Get it perfect. Be tedious. Don't cut no corners. Just line it up perfectly and take your time, because once that glue sets, you cannot take the liner off. But while it's wet, you could really mold that liner to where it needs to be. But once it sets, if you try to tear it apart, it'll just tear both leathers. It won't come off clean. There we go, using my roller. Then I roll the outside also. I hit the top and bottom of the spine, and then I roll the exterior just to get that fold over nice and smooth on the outside. It's still a little wavy because this is Sokoto, and Sokoto is just like that, but gets it to where that's even all the way around. And I know that the liner's pressed really well on the exterior. Alright, so next, this Bible actually has a single gilt line, which again I'll have to show in a different video, but I use my soldering machine also for that single gilt line. But I'm going to install that single gilt line and then just come back and show you folding over, doing the fold over. And my perspective's not the best. I wish I had a different perspective on how to do that. But you know, these how-to videos are just going to be a big overview, and I plan to do more detailed videos on these specific areas in the process. So man, if you have specific questions or areas that you're wanting more detail on, I mean, leave me a comment. You know, it'll help me have ideas on what videos to start making and to go into more detail about. So I have I glued the fold over, and then I use Clorox wipes to wipe the, here I show it, right? Use those Clorox wipes to wipe off the excess glue. Then I use a paper towel to wipe off my bench. And there's no real rush right here. You'd rather have it, you know, semi dry before you start trying to fold it over. You just get glue everywhere. And here I'm trying to find trying to make sure that you can see what I'm doing here. But I use my ruler and I tuck it under the leather, and then I press it and go to fold it over, but I don't go all the way. I just get it to where it's starting to go. And then I use my fingers and I just work it the rest of the way to where I can get just a perfect fold over. Now, if I didn't have that single gilt line, I would have used a ruler and I would have tooled in about 3/16 to a quarter. I would have tooled a line so that I have I know where to fold it over and I could get a perfectly straight line. So there we go. And then I have this little hammer that man, I don't know where I got that. I think I got that with like a IKEA, like I built a desk or something. And so I use that little hammer to hammer down the fold over. There we go. It's perfect. So there we go. I'm gonna do the other side. Same process. Get a good amount, and I go up and down a few times. I go, you know, up and down once, and then I'll go up and down again, and the brush will evenly spread out that glue. And if you have, sometimes, you know, I've noticed some liners like lambskins that the exterior doesn't, that fold over doesn't want to make good contact with the liner, and it'll actually come loose. And I actually did a few Bibles where I learned this, and I actually got a message saying, hey, you know, the fold over is kind of coming undone a little bit, and, you know, offer to repair it for free. But now if I'm using a lambskin liner, I'll apply the glue, I'll let it dry, and then I'll apply another one and let it dry a little bit more. So it's kind of more of a process. But if you have a nice cowhide or a calf skin, it should stick on really well. So here we're going to move on to corners. You see I did the four sides. I did the fold overs first, and now I got my small brush. And sorry that I'm in the way of showing you what I'm doing here. I mean, terrible perspective, but I'm applying glue. You can see there I'm applying glue to the inside liner. And then you see my two tools I'm going to use. I got a butter knife, and then I got my tooling tool. So I apply the glue. There we go. And then I use my butter knife, and I find center and I pull up center. And I pull up center all the way to the gilt line or my tooled line, and then I used my tooling tool to hold my place where I was, And I just move all the way around. Start in the middle and go one way. And then I go the other direction. And then I use my finger going the other direction just to hold the fold over. Because when you're folding leather over, Sokoto's kind of stiff. But if it's not soft enough, it'll kind of push the rest. So you're going to have to really form it. So there we go. And then I get my little hammer. And I hammer it down nice and gently. And there we go. We got a corner. And then this is a marble book. I forget what these are called. Right? They go on bookshelves and hold books up. But I've used that for years also. Found that at a thrift store and used it ever since. But I'll use that to do one final press. And so there we go. We did our 4 corners. And here I'm going to tool my lines. Just use a ruler. Just get close to the edge. And that tooling, so what you're wanting, that tooling tool, as I press that line, I mean, if you touch the edge of that tool with your finger, it'll be very hot. So you're not just tooling a line simply, but you're actually wanting to move and make the edge of that tool very hot, which it becomes hot pretty quick. And then it'll press. It'll be a permanent press on that edge, on that tooled perimeter line. Here we go. I'm doing all 4 sides. Getting it hot. It'll get hot, and then I press it. Then I usually do like one more pull back, and it kind of evens out everything. Sometimes it's not needed, but. And then you hear where I tooled where the hubs go, right where that material is. I'm then able to measure, and I measure from my exterior tooled line to that inner line. And then here is where my interior tooling line is going to go, which will wrap perfectly around the block, around the Bible itself. So then I just measure from that exterior tooled line, that outside one, and I measured, I believe this one's probably a 1/4 inch, so I measure a 1/4 inch in, and I make a little tooled indent, and then I tool the line. And I just go up as high as I think I should and as low as I think I should. And you see I'm just doing the straight lines first. I haven't tooled the covers yet, the corners I mean. There we go. I'm making the tooling tool, making it hot, pressing it. There's that final pullback I usually do just to even it out, because when you're tooling, it'll make all these kinds of little bumps and pushes. And there we go. And now we could do the corner, and I just kind of freehand it. You could freehand this. This ain't hard. You just find where the line is and tool the edge. And usually the tool's still going to be kind of hot, so you could press this pretty quickly. There we go, freehanding the edge. Just make a tight little circle. Just a tight corner, really. Tight corner, and you'll get pretty close. It'll look good. There we go. Do all 4 corners, and this cover is ready for my last embossing of the New Testament on the front. And then for cover install, which I didn't record, I installed the cover, I did the embossing, and I shipped it out. And I was like, oh man, I didn't finish the Bible in the video, so I'll have to make another cover and make a part 3 of me installing the cover and me doing the end sheets, reinforcing the spine if needed, and ribbons, and how I do it. So thanks for watching. Bye-bye.